Good evening, children. This is my third video on our lesson Digestion and Absorption. In my previous video, I discussed about some technical terms, that is peristalsis, emulsification, disorders of the digestive system, that is Kwashiorkor and the marasmus, the protein energy malnutrition, and the digestive disorders. There were 5 disorders I discussed: jaundice, constipation, vomiting or emesis, diarrhea, and indigestion. We talked about the causes, symptoms, and the treatment. I also gave you a homework, that was the diagram of the digestive system to draw in your notebooks, page number 16.2. I am talking about this diagram that I gave you last time to be done as homework. I hope all of you have done it. So today, children, we will talk about the structure and functions of the digestive systems and their associated glands. Alright, to begin with, the digestive system is broadly separated into the following. 2 main headings we have to discuss. Number 1 is the alimentary canal or the gastrointestinal tract, and the second is the set of digestive glands. Under alimentary canal, we'll talk under the following headings. First would be mouth, second was vestibule, third oral or the buccal cavity, and there are side headings that I'll take up. Fourth would be pharynx, fifth esophagus, sixth stomach, seventh small intestine, and eighth would be large intestine. Similarly, under the digestive glands, I'll talk about salivary glands, then gastric glands, intestinal glands, liver, and the pancreas. The names written in red ink, they are the side headings under the main headings with blue ink. So let us begin, children. The first heading, mouth, followed by the vestibule. If we look at this diagram here, the digestive system, then mouth is a transverse slit which is bounded by the upper and the lower lips. Mouth leads into vestibule. Vestibule is a new word for you at this stage. It is the narrow space between the lips and the cheek. Vestibule is a very narrow region. Now you can feel it with your tongue. That is the region between the lips and the cheek externally is what we call as vestibule. And vestibule leads into the third cavity, which is the oral cavity. Oral cavity we also call as the buccal cavity. So if we see this, the mouth was the transverse slit followed by the vestibule, then the oral or buccal cavity. In the buccal cavity we have to study 5 headings. 5 headings that I told you here as side headings. The first is palate, followed by the second as tongue. So what is palate, children? Palate is the roof of this buccal cavity. This separates the buccal cavity from the nasal chamber. Now you can see the air entering the nasal chamber. So this is the nasal chamber and this is the buccal cavity. The partition is what you call as palate. And because the partition is hard in the first part of the oral cavity, which later on becomes soft, right, for smooth surface, so we call it accordingly as the hard palate followed by the soft palate. So hard palate is supported by bones and there are transverse structures which hold the food in position. Then soft palate is smooth, which helps in easy swallowing of the food. The next structure under the buccal cavity is tongue. Tongue is large and muscular, greatly protrusible, and it has a V-shaped, if you can see here, furrow in the center. If you see this, we call it, this shapes like V, or the furrow or the bent here, and this is called as sulcus terminalis. Sulcus terminalis because it is towards the terminal end of the tongue. Alright, then tongue is also the posterior part attached to the floor of the buccal cavity. On the tongue, there are present various types of taste buds, right? Before we come to the taste buds, let us talk about the lingual papillae. What are papillae, children? They bear raised structures. See, look here, this diagram only I'll explain. There are three types of raised structures, what we call as papillae. The first is volvate papillae. This is at the posterior part of the tongue, somewhere here, 8 to 12 in number, right? Arranged in V-shaped at the posterior part of the tongue, and each has around 100 taste buds. The second is fungiform or the mushroom shaped, and they are more numerous towards the tip. Let us see where these are. The second is here, the fungiform or the mushroom. Fungus, because mushroom is a fungus, children, we know it. So that is why we call it mushroom shaped or the fungiform papillae, and they are in the middle and side of the tongue. Then comes the third type of, and the structures we call as filiform papillae. They are along the margins of the tongue. Filiform are the smallest and thread-like structures. Alright, so once again, let's see what all things we have done. Till now, I am explaining the digestive tract. Mouth, I have explained. Vestibule, I have explained, is the narrow region between the lips and the cheek. Coming to buccal cavity, I told you there are many structures to study. Palate, I told you the roof of the buccal cavity, which divides the nasal chamber from the mouth chamber. Then coming to tongue, which I am telling you with the various structures that we have as papillae. Here we talk about the neck structures as the lingual papillae. I told you there are three types. So once again, before we come to the next, that is taste buds, right? So three types were, four things I told you under tongue. It's a structure called sulcus terminalis, which is on the dorsal surface and V-shaped. And then we talked of three types of papillae. One, volvate at the back. There are at least 8 to 12. Then second are the fungiform or mushroom shaped. These are the middle and side of the tongue. And the third is the filiform papillae. They are the smallest of all. Alright, coming next to the taste buds. What are taste buds? They are located on the sides of two types of papillae, that is fungiform and volvate. Here, taste buds are present at the sides of these fungiform and the volvate. That means around the smallest of the papillae, that is filiform, there are no taste buds. A single taste bud looks like this. There are receptor cells, then there are supporting cells, and there are nerve fibers to take the stimulus to the brain. That is why we feel all types of tastes that we relish or we dislike. Now, taste bud also has a pore in the in the anterior part over here. Into this pore, the saliva that is mixing with the food penetrates, stimulates these receptor cells, and then we taste the food. Then coming to the next structure, teeth, we have already discussed in our previous videos. We talked about the thecodont, diphyodont, and the heterodont teeth. Dental formula I have already taken in my previous video about the temporary and the permanent teeth. Moving to the structure of tooth, children, here you have to study about three things. First is the root of the teeth here, right? A tooth in longitudinal section, the root is the part embedded into the bone, jawbone here. Then neck is this constriction, what you can see between the crown, that is the exposed part or the free part of the tooth, right? Then there is a pulp cavity in the center, which is made up of, let's say, soft pulp because of capillaries, nerve fibers, and connective tissue. Then we have the layers, that is enamel and dentine. The outermost layer is enamel. It is the hardest substance known in the body, alright, and white in color. Then enamel here, it is known to be even harder than the bones, or in short, this is the hardest part of the body. Followed by dentine. This is chemically made up of calcium carbonate, and this is yellow in color. So this is different, children. If enamel is white, then dentine is yellow. And obviously the enamel layer is more harder than what dentine could be because it is similar to bone. Chemically, dentine is similar to bone. The next heading to come for the digestive system, according to our table here, we have discussed about the taste buds, teeth. Coming next is pharynx. Pharynx to study is the common region between, we can say the common region for food and air. So if we talk about the region that is pharynx here, you will see this, pharynx. The size of pharynx is around 12 to 14 centimeters, alright, and it is the cavity behind the soft palate. So if we talk about this diagram, the hard palate followed by the soft, then pharynx is the next region, alright. Pharynx, the opening of pharynx to the esophagus. We can say there are two terms I gave you last time. I hope you remember. In my previous notes, I gave you the topic gullet and glottis. So gullet is the opening of the esophagus, whereas glottis is the opening of the trachea or the larynx, or what we also call as the voice box. So children, pharynx is divided into three regions: the nasopharynx, the oropharynx, and the laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx is the upper part of pharynx, oropharynx is the region behind the buccal cavity, and the laryngopharynx is the lowermost part of the pharynx. Alright, these details you don't have to study. Coming next to the food pipe, or what we also call as the esophagus. It is some 25 centimeters long, and remember, esophagus does not add any digestive juices to the food. It's like a simple muscular road which enters the abdominal cavity and takes the food to the stomach. Stomach is a muscular structure, widest part of the alimentary canal. The structure of stomach is into four regions. As I said, it is the widest part of alimentary canal and obliquely placed on the left side behind the diaphragm. If we talk about the regions of stomach, there are four regions. First is cardiac here. This is the left broad upper part of the stomach and guarded by cardiac sphincter. This sphincter checks the regurgitation of the food. That means once the food has entered the stomach, normally it shouldn't go back into the mouth, right? Or if it goes back into the mouth, we call it as regurgitation. So the sphincter or the muscle at cardiac part of stomach does not allow the food to go back. Second part is the top part, upper projected part, and that extends beyond the cardiac aperture. That is, it is beyond this. Aperture means opening. Alright. So this is filled with air or gas. Then comes the next part, that is the body or the corpus. This is the middle part of the stomach. And the last portion is the pyloric part. This is the lowermost narrow part of the stomach here. You can see before the stomach now meets with the duodenum of the small intestine, there's an opening called as pylorus, which is again guarded by sphincter. So this sphincter will not allow it will rather prevent the pre-digested food to enter the duodenum. That means the sphincter will not allow the food to go further till it is properly digested by the juices in the stomach. Alright. So functions of stomach are, it will store the food till it is partially digested. It will secrete gastric juice, right, and help in digestion. That we'll talk process of digestion, children. We'll talk in our next video. Today I'm only making you familiar with the terms and structures of digestive system. Coming next is the small intestine here. Small intestine part here is made up of three sections. This bend is what you call as the duodenum. Then we have the jejunum, and the last portion is the ileum. So duodenum, overall the small intestine is some 20 feet long, alright, and the portion that is duodenum is normally seen like a U-shaped structure or the bend. This duodenum is around 25 centimeters long and U-shaped, as I told you, right? Jejunum is some around 2.5 meters long and 4 centimeters wide. and ileum is 3.5 meters long and 3.5 centimeters wide. Ileum forms the longest or the largest part of, not longest, but the largest part of small intestine. Alright. Small intestine is highly coiled and occupies the upper abdominal cavity behind the stomach. Then moving on to the last part is the large intestine. You can see between the junction of small intestine and the large intestine is a blind pouch-like segment called as vermiform appendix. This is some 3 to 4 inches long, right? And it is supposed to be a vestigial organ. Vestigial means today it is functionless, but sometimes many millions of years ago it was definitely functional. So large intestine has 3 parts, a small region called as cecum, then the longest part is the colon. You can see there are 3 arms, ascending colon, transverse colon and the descending colon, and finally ending into the rectum. So let us see the length of each part here. If you look at this diagram, children, this is the cecum. The region that is cecum, when it mixes with this or joins with the small intestine, at the blind pouch only it emerges over here. Cecum arises from this junction, a worm-like blind tube called vermiform appendix, which is vestigial. I already told you. Colon is inverted U-shaped. So you can see it is like an inverted U-shaped. 3 arms, the ascending, transverse and the descending. And one more region is what we call as sigmoid colon. Colon has 3 muscular bands, the tenial coli and pouches called haustra. These details you may leave, children. Only the regions till today we are studying. Rectum is the last part of the alimentary canal, 20 centimeters, some 6 to 8 inches long, and 2.5 centimeters. It terminates into the, once again, 20 centimeters long tube that terminates into 2.5 centimeters long anal canal. Anus is guarded by sphincters, that is internal and the external. So today, as I told you, children, we are not studying about any of the digestive functions. I have divided the classes accordingly into 2 to 3 portions. My first portion today is only familiarity with the structures and their positioning. So today I have discussed about the following topics and their side headings. Alright. In our next videos, we'll be talking about the digestive glands and their subheadings, and then finally with the process of digestion. One more homework for today, children. Last time I gave you the important diagram that was digestive system of humans, page 16.2. I have shown it also. Those who have still not drawn, kindly draw this diagram. This has been clearly mentioned in your syllabus. Maybe you can be asked to draw. And the second diagram, which is again mentioned very clearly, is the transverse section of the alimentary canal, what we also call as gut. So though histology is not in your course, I'll show you. Look here. This is your syllabus. Diagrammatic representation of TS of gut showing the 4 layers. Histology of individual organs not required. Alright. So this is how we are proceeding, children, one by one. Everything cannot be done in one go. So let us practice this diagram today. Draw it very carefully. This can be expected in the current year, and diagrammatic questions may directly fetch you as many as 4 to 5 marks. So there are 4 layers, if you can see. The outermost is what we call as serosa. Second layer is muscular layer, divided into 2 parts, outer longitudinal and inner circular. Third is submucosa. Submucosa because it is below mucosa. And fourth is mucosa, that is having parts like lamina propria and muscularis mucosa. Right? So here finally the lumen marks the internalmost region of the alimentary canal. So with that I'll stop here, children. Read the pages starting from 16.2 of everything that I've explained with the diagrams. From here to all these, you should be familiarizing yourself. 1 or 2 readings, if you give personally, will add better to your learning, children, because next time we'll come to the parts of your reactions and the process of digestion with the secretion of various juices. That's all for just now, children. And keep revising. Any queries, you're free to ask. Thank you.